The moment I saw the envelope, thin and cream color with my husband's name elegantly scripted across the front and conspicuous, stinging absence of my own, I felt a cold dread pool in my stomach, a premonition of the family war that was about to erupt. My name is Anna, and for the past 5 years, I've been married to Daniel, a man whose even-keeled nature is the perfect counterweight to my own more passionate one. We live in a charming, if slightly chaotic, Victorian row house in a leafy neighborhood just outside of Manchester, a home we bought together and have filled with the comfortable clutter of our shared life. Daniel's family, the Harringtons, are a prominent local family, known for their successful chain of independent bookshops that have somehow survived the digital age through sheer force of personality and an almost religious dedication to community events. His mother, Patricia, or Patsy as she insists everyone call her, is the undisputed matriarch. Until this moment, I would describe my relationship with Patsy as cautiously cordial. We weren't the kind of mother and daughter-in-law who went for spa days together or shared secrets over wine. But we were polite. We exchanged pleasantries at family gatherings. I remembered her birthday, and she complimented my cooking with a faint, surprised air of someone who didn't expect me to be capable of it. There was an unspoken truce, a border wall of civility that we both respected. It wasn't warmth, but it was functional. So, when Daniel's invitation arrived and mine didn't, it wasn't just a snub. It was a declaration of war from a previously neutral neighbor. The party in question was a housewarming. Daniel, in a gesture of profound generosity, after a particularly profitable year for the bookshops, had bought his mother a beautiful new house. It was a modern, light-filled bungalow on the other side of town, a far cry from the drafty, old family home she'd been rattling around in since Daniel's father passed away a decade ago. The transfer of the deed was still in the hands of solicitors, a mere formality, we'd all thought. The housewarming was to be her grand reintroduction to society as the lady of a new, lovely home. And I, apparently, was not welcome. Daniel saw my face as I stared at the envelope. He took it from my hand, read the single name, and his jaw tightened. He didn't say anything, just pulled out his phone and called his mother. He put on speaker. "Mom, we got your invitation." Just one. For me, there was a pause on the other end, a beat of silence too long to be natural. "Oh, yes, darling. Well, about that." Patsy's voice, usually a cheerful, theatrical contralto, was carefully measured. "The thing is, I've also invited Jemima." Jemima. The name hung in the air like a bad smell. Jemima was Daniel's ex-wife. They'd been married for a grand total of 3 years, over a decade ago, when they were both in their early 20s. It had been a marriage orchestrated by Patsy herself. Jemima was the daughter of her best friend from university, Camilla. The relationship had imploded spectacularly when Daniel, then just starting to build the business after his father's death, wasn't ready to start a family. Jemima, who had apparently envisioned a life of immediate domesticity, had filed for divorce and, with the help of a cutthroat lawyer, had taken him for everything she could get, including a significant chunk of the then struggling bookshop's assets. The bitterness of that split had left deep scars on Daniel, though he rarely spoke of it. And Daniel's voice was dangerously low. And, sweetheart, I didn't think it would be fair made Jemima uncomfortable. She and I have stayed close. You know that. It would be so awkward for her if Anna was there. This way, everyone could have a nice time. I felt the blood drain from my face. The logic, if one could call it that, was so breathtakingly skewed it left me speechless. She was prioritizing the comfort of her son's vindictive ex-wife over the presence of his current wife. Daniel's knuckles were white as he gripped the phone. "You're choosing Jemima over Anna? At a party for a house I bought you? Don't be dramatic, Daniel. It's not about choosing. It's about being a good hostess. Jemima was invited first. It would be the height of rudeness to uninvite her now. Anna will understand. It's just one party. It's not just a party, Mum. It's a statement. He hung up before she could respond. We sat in stunned silence for a long time. The betrayal was so multi-layered, it was hard to process. There was the personal slight against me, of course, but there was also the profound disrespect to Daniel. The house, the very symbol of his success and his love for her, was being used as a venue to honor the woman who had tried to destroy him. It was a calculated humiliation. Daniel, usually so calm and forgiving, was stone-faced. He didn't say much for the rest of the evening, but I could see the gears turning. The next morning, he made another call, this time to his solicitor. He put the transfer of the house on hold. When Patsy found out, all hell broke loose. She didn't call Daniel. She called me. Her voice was a high, thin screech of accusation. I knew it. I knew this was your doing. You've manipulated my son, turned him against his own mother with your pathetic, crocodile tears. He would never do this on his own. I tried to stay calm. Patsy, this has nothing to do with me. Daniel made this decision himself because of how you treated us. Both of us. Liar, you've been poisoning his mind against me since the day you married him. You're so insecure, so threatened by my friendship with Jemima, that you have to destroy my relationship with my own son. The accusations were so absurd, so far removed from the reality of our quiet, civil relationship, that I didn't know how to respond. She hung up on me, and within hours, the family group chats were buzzing. Patsy had been busy. The narrative was set. I was a manipulative, jealous wife who had brainwashed her poor, weak son into holding his mother's house hostage. It was my fault. I was the villain. At first, the texts were a shock. Cousins I'd shared Christmas dinners with, aunts I'd helped in the kitchen, were sending us messages suggesting we apologize to Patsy, that we were being unreasonable, that family was everything and we should just let it go. It felt like a waking nightmare, a gaslighting campaign on a family-wide scale. But not everyone bought it. Daniel's cousins, his peers, the ones who knew him best, were having none of it. They saw the situation for what it was, a mother's profound lapse in judgment and loyalty. They started a counteroffensive in the chats, pointing out the simple, unassailable facts. Patsy had invited her son's ex-wife, and not his current wife, to a party for a house her son had given her. There was no nuance to twist. The facts themselves were damning. So Patsy pivoted. She stopped trying to convince the sensible ones and doubled down on her core group of supporters, a small posse of her longtime friends and a few older, more traditional relatives who believed a mother could do no wrong. The battle lines were drawn. The day of the housewarming party arrived. We didn't go, of course. We spent the day at home, a deliberate act of peaceful defiance, baking bread and watching old movies, trying to ignore the phantom limb of family drama. But we didn't need to be there to know how it went. The pictures began filtering in through various channels, sent by allies who were either gleeful or horrified. The photos were devastating in their sparsity. Patsy's new, bright living room looked cavernous. There was her posse, the same 5 or 6 faces, smiling fixedly for the camera. Jemima was in a few of them, a woman with a practiced, polished smile that didn't reach her eyes, looking, I thought, rather pleased with the whole miserable affair. There were no cousins, no young families, no one under the age of 50 except Jemima and her husband, who looked deeply uncomfortable. The party, for all of Patsy's efforts to pose and caption it as a roaring success, was a ghost town. Later that evening, the fallout began. The mass text went out. Patsy, in a masterpiece of passive-aggressive prose, sent the same message to everyone who hadn't attended. It was a masterclass in manipulation, bemoaning how incredibly hurt she was by their betrayal, how they had chosen a newcomer, a drama queen who has been in this family for a mere handful of years over her, their own flesh and blood. She called me a liar, a manipulator, an actress playing a victim to turn everyone against her. Most people, as we later heard, simply ignored it. They deleted the message and went on with their lives, their absence at the party speaking louder than any text could. And that, for me, was a quiet, profound victory. She had tried to use the party as a stage to prove her narrative, and the empty chairs had told the real story. We had kept our dignity, refused to stoop to her level by actually taking the house back, and in doing so, had won the moral high ground so completely that it was uncontestable. For a few days, there was silence. It was the calm before the storm. Patsy denied a confrontation with us directly, took her show to a larger stage. She went public. She wrote a long, rambling post on her Facebook page, explaining the sad events that led to the intimate gathering at her housewarming. She didn't name me directly, but she might as well have. She spoke of a particular individual who was chosen to play the victim, who was so deeply insecure that she felt threatened by a decades-old friendship, who would turn her own son against her with her manipulative tears. She painted herself as a lonely mother, abandoned by her child because of a jealous, conniving wife. The post was a gift to her small group of supporters, who piled on with comments about how awful it was, how some people were just toxic. But for the rest of the family, it was a step too far. The cousins, Daniel's aunts, and uncles, people who had stayed quiet, now felt compelled to speak. They saw the public airing of dirty laundry for what it was, a desperate, self-destructive act. They reached out to us, not to ask us to apologize, but to offer their support and to warn us that Patsy seemed to be spiraling. They suggested we try to talk to her, to de-escalate, for the sake of future family gatherings. They were worried about her. We appreciated their concern, but we were immovable. There's no reasoning with someone who has built their entire defense on being the victim. Daniel told his favorite cousin Liam, an apology is the only thing that would even open a door, and she's shown no sign of being capable of that. We were done. The silence from our end was, we hoped, a clear message. We were no longer participants in her drama. A week after the Facebook post, the knock came. It was a Tuesday evening. Daniel and I were in the kitchen, listening to a podcast and making dinner. The assertive rap on the door was unmistakably hers. We looked at each other. A silent conversation passed between us. We weren't going to hide, but we weren't going to be doormats either. Daniel opened the door. Patsy stood there, dressed in a smart but somber outfit, her face a mask of strained composure. She wasn't crying, but she had the look of someone who had practiced a speech. Daniel, Anna. She nodded curtly at me as she stepped past Daniel into the hallway. I led the way into the living room, not offering tea or a seat. I just turned and faced her. What are you here for, Patsy? She drew herself up. I'm here to try and put this behind us. This ridiculous situation. Okay, I said, my voice level. Then we can start with your apology. Her eyes widened, a flicker of genuine surprise before the anger reasserted itself. My apology? I have nothing to apologize for. Then this conversation is over, I said, and I meant it. I started to turn away. Daniel, she pleaded, turning to her son. Are you just going to let her speak to me like this? Are you that much under her thumb? Daniel, who had been leaning against the doorframe, arms crossed, just shook his head. She's right, Mum. You owe us an apology. Both of us. For the invitation, for the lies you've told about Anna, for the Facebook post. That's the only place to start. That's when the dam broke. The practice speech vanished, replaced by raw, unfiltered fury. Under her thumb. Look at you. You become a stranger. She has completely brainwashed you. She jabbed a finger at me. You've taken my son from me. You've turned my own family against me. I hope you're happy with what you've done. Daniel stepped forward, his voice rising to meet hers. "Stop it, Mum. This has nothing to do with Anna. This is about your choices. You chose Jemima over us. This is all on you. She's poison." Patsy shrieked, ignoring him and pointing at me. "She's a manipulative, scheming little—" "That's enough," I shouted, my own temper finally snapping. I had tried to stay calm, to let Daniel handle it, but the direct, vile attack on me in my own home was a line I couldn't tolerate. "You need to leave, right now. You cannot come into my house and speak to me like that. Your house." She let out a harsh, incredulous laugh. "This is my son's house. You have no right to tell me to do anything. I'm his mother. I'll stay as long as I like, and there's nothing you can do about it." I stepped closer to her, not aggressively, but firmly. "We bought this house together. Patsy, it's my house as much as it is Daniel's. We let you in here out of respect, hoping you were here to make things right. You're not. You're here to attack me. So I'm telling you, for the last time, to get out." She looked from me to Daniel, a last, desperate appeal in her eyes. Daniel just met her gaze, his own face set in stone. "She's right, Mum. It's her house, too, and I agree with her. You need to go." The betrayal on her face was absolute. It was as if, in that moment, she truly saw that we were a united front, an impenetrable wall against which her tantrums and manipulations were useless. And so, she did what she always did when she lost an argument. She went nuclear. "You ungrateful, worthless brat," she screamed at Daniel, her face contorted with rage. "I gave you life. I sacrificed everything for you. And this is how you repay me? By letting this stranger throw me out of your house? I regret the day I ever gave birth to you. I regret it." The words hung in the air, thick and ugly. They were designed to wound, to cut to the very core of a son's love for his mother. Daniel flinched as if he'd been physically struck. I saw the pain flash across his face. It was that, more than anything she'd said about me, that broke the last of my restraint. "Out!" I roared, pointing toward the front door. "Get out of this house right now. You are a horrible, cruel woman, and you are not welcome here another second." Still shrieking insults, calling us every name she could muster, she finally stormed toward the door. She paused on the threshold to deliver one last curse, then slammed the heavy door behind her with a force that rattled the pictures on the wall. The silence that followed was deafening. Daniel just stood there, staring at the closed door, his face pale. I went to him and wrapped my arms around him. He was rigid at first, then he slowly let out a long, shaky breath and hugged me back. We didn't speak for a long time. There was nothing to say. The final, fragile bridge between us and Patricia Harrington had just been dynamited. 2 weeks passed. 2 weeks of blessed, drama-free silence. We threw ourselves back into our lives. We went to work. We saw our friends. We laughed again. The whole sordid affair began to feel like a distant, bad dream. We were healing. Then Liam sent us a screenshot. Patsy had posted again. This time, there were no veiled references. She used our full names. She laid out the entire history, from the party invitation to the confrontation in our living room, twisting every single event to fit her narrative of the martyred mother, betrayed by a son under the spell of a gold-digging, manipulative harpy. It was a manifesto of victimhood, a public cry for sympathy designed to ruin us. And it backfired, spectacularly. This time, the comments section wasn't just a few supporters clapping back. The family descended. Cousin Liam wrote, "Patricia, we all saw the invite. We all know you invited Jemima and not Anna. That's where this started. You need to own that." Daniel's Aunt Beth, Patsy's own sister, commented, "Patsy, this is enough. You are wrong. Apologize to those children and take this post down. One by one, other relatives chimed in, not with anger, but with a weary kind of disappointment, all of them pointing to the same irrefutable truth. For a few hours, Patsy tried to fight back in the comments, but she was overwhelmed. So she did the only thing she could. She deleted every single comment that disagreed with her. She left only the fawning support of her tiny, dwindling posse. The act was so transparent, so petty that it became a joke. Screenshots of the deleted comments were circulated privately, and the consensus was unanimous. Patricia Harrington had finally, completely lost the plot. I looked at the scrub-clean comment section on her post and felt nothing but profound, cleansing sense of peace. There was no more anger, no more hurt. She had, in her desperate attempt to be the victim, alienated everyone who mattered. She had deleted her own family's voices to preserve a fantasy. She is now alone with her fantasy, her house, and her regret. We have our dignity, our home, and each other. The door is closed, and for the first time in months, the silence on the other side feels like a gift.